And this is, I feel like we're taking just like a tiny little bit of a detour. If you're, again, you got to go back and listen to the other episodes. You can't just come in on one of these. We're writing a story here that builds on top of itself. I'm telling a story here. Ooh, we're going to write it too, but I'm telling it. And, when spirit moves through me to discuss something, I'm going to go with that. And I was kind of in the middle of my story in college. And the sexual abuse, the sexual dysfunction, the double standard, the being used, for men's, sorry, buddy, I just accidentally shut my dog's head in the window. Because I'm trying to reduce the noise in these earbuds. Which is hard when you're a medium, you're a psychic, you're a seer, and there's just synchronicities around you all the time. And so you're almost tuning in, but trying to tune out at the same time. Buddy, you need to sit down and relax. Okay. Just sit and relax. Sit and relax. Thank you. Thank you. Getting through college, I was talking about how I ended up dating somebody long distance that, felt safe. Like, it didn't have to be accountable for them all the time. I could just worry about myself. And while still having some sort of connection. And then I got to the end of college and panicked about, like, what's my plan? I didn't have a job set up. I didn't know where I was going. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to go back to my mom's. And I can't do that. So I ended up starting to date somebody who had pursued me heavily for like a year. And I just wasn't into. But it was kind of like, oh, okay, well, if somebody is that interested in me and that, like, wants to know about me that much, then maybe I should give it a chance and just see what happens. Even though I was just like, he's like a brother to me. And I actually, in past life regression therapy, found out he was a brother for me in a past life. Pretty much all of my significant experiences, my significant relationships with men have been brothers to me in past lives. And that's like a karmic thing that keeps coming around, is that I go for a nice guy because he feels safe, but it's somebody that I have more of a brotherly relationship with. Because when I was younger, that's what I was kind of taught was love. Like, I was taught to accept that instead of, my mom said, go for your passion, go for somebody that lights your soul on fire, that does all these things to light you up on the inside, and never showed me how to actually do that or supported me in doing that. She supported me in staying in comfort rather than going after my dreams and going after true love, true unconditional love. So I'm doing that right now. But the point here is, I ended up spending another 5 years with somebody that I really wasn't my person, and competed with me for being, the alpha in the relationship. He was a white rapper from South Carolina who ended up going to jail for trafficking marijuana. And that's like a whole nother scenario that, like, I stayed with him for years after that happened. And instead of my mom, like, giving me the support and like being in a difficult situation and trying to help me choose, she basically convinced me he would never be able to give me any kind of life that I wanted, and that I needed to leave and come home, to get out of there, to be safe, that I was never going to have a life with a felon. And what's that going to do for you? How's that going to be for you? And yes, I get, like, taking care of yourself, but I was in the position where I was just like, I can't believe that you would totally write this person off just because they went through this situation. And honestly, like, I defended him to the core that he had a good heart, was a good person. And again, I said before, if you haven't listened to my other podcast, that's kind of my gift. I can see people's hearts, but I make decisions based off that instead of paying attention to what's going on really on the outside. And oh, come on. Sorry, I'm opening my storage unit right now, huh? Very prophetic. Um, but during that relationship, I always stood up for him. But during that relationship, I was completely psychologically, emotionally abused, financially abused. And it's one of those situations where I realized after I left, when I finally left, but I came home instead of going out on my own, it really clicked for me. And I was like, oh no, I just spent years in a relationship with somebody that was emotionally and psychologically abusing me. And I really didn't talk about it because I was made to be like the jealous one. And I'm going to talk about all of this, but I'm going to bring up right now the point and why I'm discussing this is what happens to women who report abuse. Right? In this lifetime, I have been reluctant to report any kind of abuse because I've seen what happens to the women who do. And they go through hell to tell their story. And half the time, nothing good comes of it. And while Robert was crucial in my realization of this and where we're going right now, and my final like fear that I've had to face is music and creating hip hop music and creating music that moves me and playing music for other people. And I'm scared of it because I'm not scared of it. I was scared of it. And I am overcoming that. Because I was with somebody who was a musician, who made music, who had an independent label, who, yes, went to jail for trafficking marijuana, but I used to defend wholeheartedly, saying he was doing that because he was trying to build something. He wasn't just a street thug. And, now everything that I know about cannabis and its connection to spirit and its use. Sit! The dog is about to go apeshit. Everything that I know now about cannabis use and its connection to spirit and the fact that it's here for joy, it's here for us to use, it's here for healing. No, we're not supposed to be smoking it left and right and abusing it, but we are supposed to be utilizing it to heal, right? And that's the medicine woman in me that's been in me this whole time trying to come out. And, college is where I got exposed. Well, actually, my first boyfriend got me into it, but I used to give him so much shit. And because I was like, little Miss Goody Two Shoes. But, my entry into the world of cannabis was during college. And I'm moving stuff out of the car right now. I know you can hear strange things. And it's being used against me currently in my divorce to call me unfit and take my children away. And this is where, like, what happens to women who report abuse. And in my previous relationship with Robert, again, in jail for trafficking marijuana, and I gave up like everything to go visit him on a regular basis. I spent every weekend going to visit him in jail, and he wasn't close at first. And it was hours and hours in the car, gas money, phone calls, the money that I had to put on cards to talk to him as often as possible. Just the amount of stuff that I did to try to help him manage, and everything was, you don't understand what it's like in here. You don't understand what it's like in here. You don't understand what it's like in here. And there were so many times that I was like, but you are the one that got yourself there. It's not my responsibility to suffer with you. I am doing everything that I can to help support you. But like, if I wanted to spend some money to get my hair done and it means I can't come see you one day, like, okay. If you're in a good relationship, you're with somebody that says, you know what, babe, you deserve to go get your hair done, and I appreciate everything you've done for me. And take a weekend for yourself. Take a weekend to take care of you. But I didn't pick somebody that did that for me, and I married somebody that didn't do that for me either. And throughout my entire relationship with Robert, it's like I got turned into corporate Barbie. And he was running this hip hop label with this like CEO persona. And I wanted to make music. I wanted to sing. I wanted to have fun. Who did he have sing on the tracks with him where he needed a girl? The stripper down the hall. And not that the song he made was one that I would have wanted to be on, but I was then accused of being the jealous one for not being happy that he was around strippers all the time, or that he had, other girls around all the time making music with him and stuff. And actually, I'm going to take that back. Girls weren't making music with him, but he was a club promoter. He wasn't really DJing a lot then, but he would go run events at clubs. He was like an MC. And like, I was the hostess with the mostest. Like, I loved hosting parties, having people over. I loved to cook. Like, that was my thing. I was an entertainer as well. And it's like you realize in some of those times that instead of creating something together, it was always a competition. And that's not how it's supposed to be when you're with the right partner. You're not supposed to be in competition with each other. You're supposed to be able to build something beautiful together. And that is, our mission here on earth is to find yourself, that love for you, to do what you want to do, and to spend it with the people that are going to help you build something beautiful. And, I realized in that relationship that we weren't building anything beautiful together. I was his girlfriend that was meant to show up when needed to. I had to run the door at his events all the time because he didn't trust anybody else with his money. So I didn't have to, I was asked to, and I submitted to running the door at all of his events and shows. He had like I said, he was a rapper. He had a couple albums, and he would go do shows and like small shows, especially in his hometown and stuff. And where we lived, and he didn't trust anybody with his money. So I know I'm repeating myself. I'm sorry. I just got hit for a moment with just real wave of emotion and looking at stuff in the storage unit. And I see what I'm doing here. Sorry. Whew, sorry, that was a wave of real stuff just hitting me there for a minute. Thank you for bearing with me for a second. We have to know what's acceptable in relationships, and we have to speak up for it, and we have to be an example for the next generation and for our children of what we will and won't stand for. And in that relationship, I was not an example of what I would stand for until the very end. And I finally said, I'm done. I am done. My health had been deteriorating. And that's the other thing I've said before. Pay attention to your relationships and your health, ladies, because they're a direct reflection of one another. What's going on in your body is telling you to pay attention to what's going on around you. Oh, right now that I have this pain in the back of my knee, which is that is a big thing popping out to start talking about the relationship with my aunt when we talk about what happens to women who report abuse, both my aunts, because they are in toxic cycles in my family too. They've put up with things that we shouldn't put up with from my uncles. And I've tried to call it out, bring it up. And I've basically been blackballed by both of them. And man, that betrayal hits, right? That betrayal hits. It's not just about the abuse that comes from men. Like, it is the abuse that we perform on each other as women as well, especially related to sexual subjects. Ooh, yeah, I just got a kick in the foot about that one. I'm going to have to do some, movement soon. Yeah. We got to do some movement in a moment. Okay, sorry about that. There's a bird flying over. I have an injury, a knee injury that I've traced back to the times where I've put other people's desires over my own and taking care of myself. And that's really what I'm working on healing right now, is taking care of myself instead of what everybody else expects me and wants me to do. Because that is how we teach our daughters. And I'll explain some synchronicities right now. My cousin, I actually sent her a message. My grandmother, I was going to give her my grandmother's wedding ring, engagement ring, and wedding band. And I had said, you know what, no, I'm going to keep it for my daughter. And that's not what my grandma wants. That is what I wanted. But it's not my ring. It was mine for a little bit, and it's time to pass on. Because I've solved the problem with that ring. solving it right now. And she is the next generation in this family that will decide what is and is not acceptable from a partner. And unfortunately, her mother is not a great example for her. And I know there's a lot of people that would judge me saying that, but I say it with love because this is my aunt that I have told her multiple times, you know where the exit is, you just have to take it. Like, why are you staying in this relationship? Why are you staying in this marriage with somebody who doesn't respect you or take care of you? And I don't mean just like take care of you financially, which is his expectation. That's what he has said. I provide for this family. I work hard for this family. And that's what my husband used to say. Like, I married somebody that carried the same values curse as the people in my family. This is my mom's side of the family. And oh gosh, I'm coming up behind a white Jeep with the license plate MVM 5775. And I can't even, Bob Ruthford, I can't even begin to tell you what that means for me in this moment. But the question, what we do to women that report abuse, you know, and when Robert was in jail and I started saying, this is not fair. You can't just hold me to, like, I need to be able to live too. I was made to feel guilty for that. And I stayed with him for so long because I loved his friends and family. They were my circle. And I was so worried about what they would think of me if I left. Like, what a horrible person she must be to stand up for herself. 22 on the timer when I said that. How horrible to take care of herself and to stand up and say, this isn't right. How horrible to leave him when he needs her the most. What about me? What about what I needed? I was completely falling apart. My gallbladder stopped functioning. And I've been able to go back and tie my injuries into the energetic events that were happening at the time and how they manifested. And literally, I was just like, your gallbladder holds bile that goes into your stomach to break down everything you're consuming. And mine literally stopped functioning. So I just had this organ that was just either full of acid or it would just like dump acid straight into my stomach. Spent months just throwing up everything that I was eating, feeling sick to my stomach. And like when I would call out of work because the mornings were the worst, I remember finding out that my boss called our HR person, who was one of my dear friends, who I'm going to talk about as well because she manifested breast cancer from that whole encounter where we worked and her own family trauma. And because she tried to report abuse. And whew, I was made to feel guilty for doing that, for wanting to go. And I stayed longer than I should have for that reason. And I've done it in this situation again, but I'm finally leaving. And that was a time when I I had been put on antidepressants, anti-anxiety meds. I had my gallbladder out. Like, my body was falling apart. I wasn't functioning properly. And I was with someone who said, you don't need those meds. You're not depressed. That's society telling you you need them. And now I agree that the meds were not the appropriate solution. But it wasn't society telling me I needed them. It was him. I mean, yes, that's what the doctors put you on. I also was not using cannabis at the time because I had gotten a DUI right before he went to jail and lost all, like, driving. I was in a substance abuse program ordered by the court and was undergoing drug testing, which I had failed several, and I had to do the program longer because I had cannabis in my system. I remember the teacher saying I was a walking blunt when I came in because my levels were so high. And that whole program, it's now like, I agree with the abuse side of things that were discussed in that program, but looking back on it, like, completely negating cannabis as a useful plant medicine is inaccurate, false, misleading information. I am on a crusade for it to be legal everywhere. It is Mother Nature's anti-anxiety and joy medication, but we have to learn how to use it properly, right? And in ways that aren't harming us, because smoking it isn't great for you. And I say this as someone who is still smoking it and has been shown that I could potentially get lung cancer if I don't freaking use my power for good and get out of bad air that I'm breathing. And part of that I'm talking about is racial injustice and cultural appropriation. I've been scared, again, to make hip-hop music because of cultural appropriation, but I've done past life regression therapy, and we all came from Africa. Everything started in Africa, like reverence for African culture and wanting to do something to bring light to what has happened in our world and our country and how we have literally been enslaved everywhere and how this country was built on the back of slaves. And right now the American dream is being built on the back of, has been for a while, sit down, buddy. The American dream is being built on the back of domestic slaves. We're all domestic slaves, and we've been bred to be that. But opening up about this abuse gets us in trouble. In past lives, it's what got me killed. In this life, it's how I make a difference. I have to use my voice. I have to speak up. Because I have to be a voice for the voiceless. I'm choosing to be a voice for the voiceless right now. And in that relationship where I was told, it's just society telling you need these pills. Yes, society did push them on me, but the situation that I was in, not taking care of myself, is ultimately what led to what we in this country call mental health disorders. And sure, we can call it that. It is a mental health disorder because we're not thinking clearly. We're trying to think clearly, but we're operating in situations in society that we weren't built to operate in, that we weren't meant to operate in. We were meant to be free, have free will, spiritual beings, experiencing Earth as a gift, not a prison. If you're still living in prison, please let yourself out. I'm doing that right now by talking about all of this. And getting out of that relationship with Robert felt so good, but then I came right home to bad air to my mother. And I was trying to step into my own and get out and get my own apartment. But I struggled, and that's where Brian, my ex-husband, soon-to-be ex-husband, came in. And I failed that karmic test for 12 years. Ugh. But before I got into that relationship, I said to him, I've just spent 5 years in a relationship with someone that was psychologically, emotionally abusing me throughout, and financially. Throughout our relationship, he made way more money than I did, but I was expected to still give him the level of monetary gifts that he gave me, or take him to nice dinners and do things for him that I couldn't afford, and I got myself a massive credit card debt as a result of it. And now I'm in massive credit card debt as a result of covering expenses in my home that I was made to feel responsible for, even though I wasn't making enough money to cover those expenses. And That's financial abuse, people. That is financial abuse. When you're in a relationship where the income difference is so incredibly, I made a quarter of what my ex was making. And I was expected to contribute to a level that I couldn't to this household. Not only financially, but emotionally as well. He was the one who was emotionally inept. And I had all the love to give. And I gave all my love. I gave everything I had until I fell apart. Until my body was falling apart. Until my brain fell apart. And I'm not the only one. That's why I'm sharing this. Because there's so many women around me. I need you to sit down, please, buddy. We're backing up to the garage right now so we can fill it up, okay? Oh. Yeah, I gave everything until I literally fell apart. And there's so many women in these situations. Ladies with your migraines, with thyroid conditions, with stuff that makes you shake. Those are results of what's happening in your relationship. That you are not in balance between your soul and the path that you're on. I'm going to pause here. Whew. All right, I'm back. Now I'm in this house that I'm trying to clear out with all this stuff in it. And it's like, all right, what am I going to use to build off of and what am I just letting go of? And that's a hard question. And we're figuring that out right now. We're seeing what's important. And the only thing I want to caution myself against is like, what am I keeping just to make money off of? What am I keeping to utilize towards something bigger? What am I holding on to that I just need to like say bye to? So that's what we're figuring out right now. And again, my family is part of what I just need to say bye to because they just haven't been here to support. And I say this with love, and I say it with love for myself because the people that I am moving on from right now are the ones that I feel like I put the most love into. But they're the people that are going through similar situations and just can't face it. So I have to be an example. Instead of sticking around here to show them and to try to get through to them, like I have to be an example of how to do it. And so that's what I'm doing right now. Being an example of how to do it. And, you know, my two aunts are the ones that I had expected the most from because they were women I leaned on, women that I thought I could rely on. I thought they were going to be supportive aunties for my kids. But instead of helping to defend me when I reported abuse in my marriage, they're supporting the abuser because they're still with their abusers. They're still with their abusers. And they haven't been able to get to leave yet. And just as I say this, I'm literally like the stuff that I'm finding right now, because again, it's not just my story, it's everybody's story. What happens when you report abuse? I just pulled out a Walt Disney World ticket for Typhoon Lagoon from 1997, which was also, I mean, okay, Disney, let's talk about the abuse and how they're psychologically manipulating our children and all the things that have happened to children working for Disney. I just pulled out an O.J. Simpson pog right? What happened in Nicole Brown's system for reporting abuse. I pulled out a picture of my dad that says Patriots Pass. What happens when you report abuse? I pulled out a Zippo lighter that says USA that was from Hooters. What happens when you report abuse? I actually pulled out a medal from a mental health foundation from a 5K we ran for the old gym I used to work for. And that was a place there too. Like the financial abuse that was coming through to the trainers, the amount of money that was taken from them for, corporate gain, where they have people working for them that can barely afford to pay their bills and they're going on luxury vacations and retiring in Florida, and then their daughter takes over the company to the detriment of her own family. And I found out recently that she passed away at like 43 from ovarian cancer. That's what happens, people. That's what happens when we don't report abuse. That's what happens when we put others above ourselves, is we manifest our own illness. We manifest our own cancer because you're holding trauma in your body. Do you hear that ding? Ding. By holding the trauma in our bodies. And right now my knee is like bumping at me going, can you please stretch? Can you please work on us a little bit? We need some attention over here. This knee needs some attention. And I am itching right now. Oh, the spot on my arm that has stuff that pops out all the time. It's actually where my old, I used to have a rash that came out here when I was under stress or being abused. What happened to me since I reported abuse in my marriage? Yeah, pushed into a situation where the Christian family that runs a religious center on their property has completely shunned me, is completely unwilling to work on their own stuff, and wants me to just go away. I opened up about sexual trauma, sexual abuse, suicidal ideation, and all they will say is, we pray for you. And I personally find that those people are the ones that are the most dangerous. They are the most dangerous because they sit here and say, we pray for you, but they won't offer assistance. They want to pray for you, but they don't want to actually help you, because helping you means they have to face their own issues. And therein lies the problem, that people have to face their own issues in order to help someone. Too far away from the phone, I have to go back. Did you lose me? Did you lose me there for a sec? Right now I'm being asked to let go of a lot of stuff. And that's why I said earlier, am I holding on to this because I want to make money off of it? I'm doing it for the money. If you're doing it for the money and you're in lack, what am I holding on to that I really think I can make something out of? Right? So let's just let it go. Just let it all go. You don't need it all, right?